Hello there, Pursuing Freedom friends. Thank you, as always, for tuning in today. I've got a great show in store for you. I'm really excited to introduce you today to Michael Hellickson. Michael started his real estate career in 1991 and had a mega successful business, an incredibly successful team. And then he took a hiatus. He actually retired for a couple years. How cool is that? And then he came back a few years back to launch what is now the number one coaching company for real estate agents in the team space, which is Club Wealth. And Michael has a team of, 70 coaches now, and they coach real estate agents to build a successful business and scale that business and all kinds of good stuff. So I know that you are going to get a lot of value out of this call. So let's just jump right in. Michael, thanks for being here.
I appreciate you having me, Aaron. It's super cool to be here again, but for the first time.
Oh, yeah, right. This is our re-record because we have some tech IT issues, which, is not my forte. So anyway, Michael, we always start from the beginning. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about your own journey as a real estate agent, kind of how and when you got into the business, and then how did it evolve into where you're at today as the founder of a mega coaching organization?
So when I was young, I like most kids, I did all the kid stuff, right? Go around the neighborhood, mow lawns to make a living. Before I mowed lawns, I collected aluminum cans and newspapers, recycled those to make money. And then I deputized the neighbor kids to help me do the same thing, and I split it with them. And then one thing led to another, and eventually I had a landscaping company with like 20 kids in the neighborhood working for me, and I started to figure out that, hey man, this is pretty good. Like leverage is a good thing. And as I got older, I got to about 16 years old, I started really thinking about, what do I really want to do? Like, where am I going to make money? And how am I going to create a living that allows me to have the kind of lifestyle that I want to have? And I thought about it. I thought, well, the books I was reading were telling me that most millionaires either made or keep their money or both in real estate. And so I thought, okay, well, that makes sense. So, once you've got money, you want to put it into real estate. Okay, that makes sense. But what do I need to do to get the money? And I figure, well, I'm pretty good at sales, and sales careers, they tend to do pretty well and give you, unlimited upward potential. And I thought, well, what kind of sales can I go into to make a lot of money? And my gosh, I keep seeing all these real estate agents. They got these cards. They say $1 million producer. Wow, $1 million producer. They're all millionaires in this business. Like, what am I missing? Like, I gotta get in on this. Like I said, all I gotta do is get a license. I would be $1 million guy, because I've seen some of these guys that have this $1 million producer thing on there. I'm like, that guy's a schmuck. If he can do it, I can do it, right? Yeah. And so, lo and behold, I went and got a real estate license, and then found out the truth that this is the only industry on the planet that gives really prestigious awards to people that are completely broke. So anyway, long story short, I got into real estate while I was in high school. I was in 1991. I was 18 years old. Got my license. I turned 18 in January. Got my license in March. Was the top agent in the office by June at graduation, which just really meant that I was less broke than the rest of the agents in the office. I was still broke, but I just wasn't as broke as the rest of them. And so kept worked 100-hour weeks. That whole year. The next year, I left for 2 years. I went on served a mission for the church for 2 years in Germany. Wonderful 2 years. Learned a ton. Came back and got right back at it. But I learned something. When I went back, I found out there's these things out there that can help you shortcut the learning curve. They can help you get kind of a head start, an unfair advantage, if you will, and shorten the cycle or the process of getting from where I was to where I wanted to be down to, by about 5 to 10 years. And that was to get a coach. And so someone introduced me to Mike Ferry. So Mike Ferry was my first coach, and he helped me grow, and I helped me get over the fear of making calls, and helped me get over the fear of rejection. And heck, I was a single guy. You'd think I'd be pretty comfortable with rejection by that point, right? So long story short, Mike helped me grow my business, and I learned as much as I could from him, learned some great NLP techniques, all kinds of cool stuff. And then I kind of hit a plateau. I figured out that, man, this making calls stuff, man, it's a lot of work. And there's only so many hours in the day, and there's only so many calls I can make in a day or in an hour or whatever. And at some point, it's like, I either run out of hours or I get burned out. And I'm like, man, do I really want to do this the rest of my life? And how do I get to the next level? how do I really get to, because I thought it was going to be $1 million a year in net income. I didn't realize $1 million producer just meant you sold a really nice house that year. So I switched coaches, and I went and hired Brian Buffini as my coach. Yeah, I learned a ton from him. Great information. Learned how to build business by referral, and how to take care of clients, and how to stay in touch with them, and calls, notes, Popeyes, client events, that kind of stuff. That was the soul system, by the way, good stuff. But learned a lot of great stuff, and then again hit a plateau. And realize, hold on now. So I'm implementing. It wasn't either or. I didn't transition from doing Mike's stuff to doing Brian's stuff. I did them both. So I implemented Mike's stuff. Then I started hiring other people to help me with it. I got it on autopilot, automated as much as I could, delegated as much as I could, and then I did the same thing with Brian's system. I automated as much as I could, delegated as much as I could, eliminated the wasteful stuff, and then I hired another coach and did the same thing. And another one another year or two later, and then another one. And before long, I had all these systems in place, and I was doing about 400 or 500 transactions a year, and things were great, and my life was good. And you talk about lifestyle by design, and I'm the same way. I'm very much, our core value at Club Wealth is no success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. So I'm having this great life, and then all of a sudden, 2007 hit, and we went. The market was great, and then it wasn't. And interestingly, I kind of had transitioned just prior to that to, not transition, but I started doing a lot of short sales. And they got more and more and more in about 2007. Then all of a sudden, when the money shut off, all of a sudden it was all short sales. And then REO started coming. There started to be a lot of foreclosures. And so I started getting into that business. And so about half my business was REO and half my business was retail. And I got to where we were doing about 120 to 180 transactions a month. Grew to about 750 listings in active and pending status, and realized I was onto something. Like, this was working pretty good. What it really came down to was you can't just do one thing. You can't just be a one-trick pony. You've got to have balanced systems. You got to have balanced lead generation. You got to have a wide, diversified group of lead generation sources. You got to become an expert at lead gen, lead follow-up, and lead conversion. And as you do that, and you automate the things that you can, and you delegate the things you can't automate, and you eliminate the things that just are unnecessary, all of a sudden you've got a pretty nice business and an even better lifestyle. And you're able to put the focus on, instead of how do I make a living, now you can start focusing on how do I make a difference, which is a very different thing. And it's a very nice place to be able to come from, to be able to say, I make great money, and hey, if we do business together, cool, that's great. But let's just talk about how I can help you. Like, what do you got going on? Whether I make a dime or not, what's going on in your world? How can I bring value to it? And anyway, so there you go. So then, 2011, through a series of circumstances, I picked the wrong fight with our state government. They were breaking the law. I sued them. I beat them. Nobody wins. I'm telling you right now. You can be right or you can be rich. You can't be both. Like, pick one. So unfortunately, at the time, I picked, I want to be right, sued the state, beat them time and time again. Eventually, they just wore me down. I spent $356,000 fighting them before I realized, man, I'm going to have a heart attack or they're going to bankrupt me, one of the two. And neither one of them was good. And so I got permission from my wife, because as with most families, she wears the pants of family. Any man that says otherwise probably lies about other things too. So I got her permission, and I sold the business to the woman who was our office manager at the time, wonderful one. And we took 3.5 years off with the kids, traveled the world, spent 3 of the best years of my life with my family. It was phenomenal. Bought a motorhome and lived in this beautiful motorhome for 91 days. We traveled all over the Southwest. Just tell you, 91 days in a motorhome with a wonderful wife, 2 rambunctious little kids, and 2 dogs. Yeah, you'll learn some things. So yeah, that was kind of crazy. Then we spent the next summer in Europe, and it was great. It was a great time. I wouldn't trade it for anything, but I'm not a retirement kind of guy. I got to the point where I just realized that this is not what God put me here on this earth to do. They did not put me here on this earth to just enjoy a lavish life and not contribute. And I felt there was a hole in my life. And right about that time, I got calls from Mike Bjorkman, Jesse Zagorski, and a couple of our other clients that used to be coaching clients of mine back when I was still selling real estate. I was coaching a lot of top agents, and And these guys called me up and they said, "What are you doing? Like, what's your issue? Like, why aren't you back in real time? Why aren't you coaching right now? Why are you? Like, come on, man! Like, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know." And they said, "Well, what turns you on? What gets you excited? What makes your world go around and makes you happy?" And they kind of did a little coaching for me in the moment, and helped me come to the conclusion that I was put here on the earth to help other people live their best life. And so within a couple months, after a lot of prayer and thought and discussion with Tara, my wife, we opened Club Wealth, and we started coaching their teams, the folks that had called me, and we grew. We went from brand new in 2014 to within 2.5 years, we were number one in the team space. We coached agents from at all levels, but it took us about 2.5 years to get to number one, and yeah, the rest has been history. I mean, it's been a wonderful, wild, crazy ride. So there you go. There's my
awesome
story short.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. So first and foremost, I mean, I'm going to start from the beginning too. When you talked about getting your real estate license right after you turned 18 and then going on to become the top agent, regardless of what, the joke you made about, being the least broke person in the room or whatever.
True.
I am always curious about people that started young.
Mm-hmm.
What did it look like for you, first and foremost, to start as an 18-year-old?
Yeah.
And then after you did your time away and you came back and you said that you got a coach early on, both of those things are really impressive to me. And I'm kind of curious, like, who were you learning from? Who were you admiring that you followed in order to not only have early success, but also be smart enough to hire a coach so early on in your career? Because most people, me, I was a hot mess for like years, and then finally got a coach, and then changed my life, and then got another coach and changed my life again. And like you, it's like, get the coach, push through the comfort zone, grow, adapt, both those things, and then get a different coach and get new philosophies and adopt those principles and adapt and so on, right? So both of those things are impressive, that you were successful at 18 and that you got a coach early on. So who are you following? Who are you learning from?
Well, there's 3 questions in there. I think, and so the first question you asked was, what was it like? And the answer to that is 3 words: they hated me. And I'm telling you, when you get an 18-year-old kid come in there and start taking listings at 8 and 10% in 1991, where that just wasn't done in 1991. But I didn't know better, right? Like, I had no idea. I just figured, well, I'm going to do more than average agent. That's what I'm going to charge more. And I got away with it. It worked. And so they hated me for it. Now, I would say a good number of the agents in the office were there was a lot of animosity towards an 18-year-old coming in and doing this. There were also a handful that were wonderful to me, and that were wonderful people that encouraged me and said, "You don't listen to those people. You just keep doing what you're doing." And I don't know if I'd be here today if it wasn't for those. So I really do appreciate those. Now, second question was, who did you listen to? Who did you take advice from? So this one, I was pretty hardcore about this. So I said, look, if I want to make $100,000 a year, so at the time, my first goal was $100,000 a year. So if I'm going to make $100,000 a year selling real estate, I got to take advice only from people that make at least $100,000 selling real estate. So from somebody, and that was one guy in my office, one guy. And he was a jerk. He was not a nice guy. He knew he was the top agent in the office. You know that guy? You know what I mean? I mean, like, he was that guy that, he was just too good for everybody. And he had a cordless phone. Like, back then, it was a big deal to have a cordless phone, right? And he was the first one with the brick, right? And then he had the brick phone, and he'd take it into the bathroom with him. And I was like, well, what the heck, dude? You're on the phone when you're in the bathroom. He's like, oh, you got to be efficient. You got to be okay. But I mean, he was just a jerk. Anyway, long story short, I found other people in the area that were making at least $100,000 a year. There wasn't very many, but I found the ones that I could, and I started listening to them, and I would just do whatever they said. And I was just heaping on. Like, instead of me being able to say no to certain activities and say yes to others, I was saying yes to all of it because I didn't know any better. So that there comes the 100 hours a week, right? I was literally sleeping under my desk 3 nights a week, and that's before I worked from home. Um, and so I did that for about a year, and it was brutal. And my parents, I remember like this year. Listen, I love my parents; they're good people, and they meant well. But I got to tell you, every time I'd pick up the phone and talk to my parents, it was, and I lived on my own at this point. My parents were constantly, it was, you should get a job at McDonald's. You'd make more money. And the thing that really sucked was they were right. But I'll be darned if I'm gonna be a quitter. There's no way I'm gonna let them win that one. There's no way. I'm not gonna be a quitter. And but it got to the point it was so negative for so long. Who I didn't listen to became as important as who I was listening to. I kid you not. I called my parents up one day. I remember like it was yesterday. I called them each up. They were divorced. So I called them up separately and I said, I want you to know I love you. And I want you to know you're not going to hear from me for a while. I said, I've asked a lot of times for you to stop with you need to get out of this business and go do something else thing. I'm not going to do that. I've made a decision. I'm taking my stand here. This is my industry. This is what I'm going to do. And I'll call you when I'm ready to, but don't be offended that you're not going to hear from me. And 10 months went by before I spoke to my parents, and that's extreme. I get it. And I'm not suggesting that for anyone else. I'm just saying that it was so negative. And again, they meant well. They meant well. But they didn't see it as negative. They saw it as telling me the truth. And I got to tell you, without having done that, that gave me the clarity. That gave me the freedom in my mind space to start plugging in positive stuff. And that's what I did. So then so I went on my mission, came back, hired Mike, and you talked, so that was your next question, was how did I have the presence of mind to hire a coach? I have no idea. Like, I just got lucky. I honestly have no idea. I don't remember how I met Mike. I know that, and at the time, his son, Tom and Matt both were working for him. So I got to know those guys really well. Really had good interaction with both those guys. But I just looked at what other agents were doing, and very successful agents always had a coach. And I'm talking the ones that were making $250 and more a year, all had coaches. And so it just made sense. And I couldn't afford it. And by the way, again, not suggesting other people do this. Although I did have a client, I'll tell you about her in a second. I had to put on my credit card. I mean, literally, I had no pending transactions at the time, no idea how I was going to pay for this, but I had a credit card. So what do I have to lose?
Yep. Me too. I mean, I just had this conversation with someone the other day. I'll never forget. It was the second or third time I went broke. Trying to figure it out on my own, which is not easy, by the way. I mean, operating like an island in any capacity is not ideal. You should always be looking to learn from people that can guide you and give you the straight talk and see the forest through the trees. But I remember, just being broke and in debt, $30-some thousand in debt, and just feeling like enough is enough. And somebody recommended this one coach, and I remember it was $500 for this program, and I did not have it, and I couldn't justify it, but I couldn't justify continuing on like that anymore. Mm-hmm. And I know you were going to share a story about one of your coaching clients that was in a similar situation.
Oh my gosh, this woman, wonderful person. So her name's Sarah. And Sarah contacted me and said, hey, I want to coach a club of golf, but I'm a recently single mom. So she'd just gone through a divorce, literally just gone through a divorce. I was actually in the middle of the divorce, but was now separated. And she says, I've got multiple kids. I've got 3 hours a day. That's it. I have a 3-hour window every day that I can work. Can I be successful with your program? And I told her, I said, well, it depends on what you do during those 3 hours. I mean, if you're going to be focused, if you're going to do every single thing we tell you during those 3 hours, yeah, you can be successful. And I was very confident in that. What I didn't know at the time, and if I had known this at the time, I don't know what I would have told her. I don't know if I'd have given her the same advice, but she said later, much later, she says, Michael, what you don't know is at the time I had to choose between paying for coaching and paying my mortgage. And I chose to pay for coaching. And I'm glad she didn't tell me that, because I don't know if I would have had the strength to tell her to sign up for coaching at that point in time. I really don't. Turns out, she missed a couple of payments, but she ended up making 6 figures that first year selling real estate and coaching. And I'll tell you that she's killing it today. Here's what I believe. I believe there comes a point in every highly successful person's life where you have to make a decision. You got to draw a line in the sand. And at some point, and that's different for everybody, but if you're going to be highly successful, whether it's in real estate or whatever you're going to be, it doesn't matter what you're going to do. If you're going to be highly successful at anything, you want to be a highly successful parent, you want to be a highly successful spouse, you want to be a highly successful business person, there comes a point in time where you must draw a line in the sand and you have to say enough is enough. I'm going to be what I know I'm capable of being because it's what I'm going to be, and I'm not going to allow anything to hold me back. And I'm willing to pay whatever price is necessary to become that. And until you're ready to do that, most people just aren't. They're not ready for coaching. They're not ready for growth of any real magnitude in any area of their life. But when you make that decision, and when you make when you decide that no matter what the consequences, darn the torpedo's full speed ahead, I'm going to accomplish it, and you have no fallback plan. There's no plan B, right? You've burned the ships. That's when growth happens. That's when massive things can happen and changes can happen in your life that will defy everyone else's logic. And you know what? Good. Because they don't know you, right? They don't know, and nobody really knows Aaron. I mean, you've got people in your life that know you, but nobody but you and God really know you, right? Really know at every moment where your heart's at, really know at every moment where your mindset's at. I guarantee there's days you wake up and you put on a good face because you need to for your clients, for your family, for whomever's around you. But inside you're dying at times. And only you and God know what it takes for you to get beyond that. And that's where people got to draw that line. They got to decide that, you know what, even if all I got is me and God, I got that. And I'll figure it out. Anyway.
Well, the thing is that the word is decide. And, it's hard for folks to decide to become something that's so beyond the limit of their imagination, or the moment the imagination starts to open up to an idea, then the limiting beliefs come around and just squash all that. And so there's this feeling of being stuck. And the reality is that I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I always say that anything is actually possible because I've seen it. The transformation with myself and with others. And I know that anything is possible, but it's not possible until you decide exactly what it is you want and then commit to taking massive action and never quit. That's it.
And I love that word. So I love the word commit. And I'll tell you why. Because most people, they'll set goals, right? Goals are weak. And don't get me wrong, it's great. Set goals. I'm all for it. Like we have an exercise we take our clients through for goal setting. All that. It's great. But a goal doesn't do you any good until you make a commitment to that goal. And for there to be a commitment, there has to be both a carrot and a stick, right? It's not enough to have just one or the other. Because people are motivated by either hope for gain or fear of loss. 80% of the planet is motivated more by fear of loss than they are by hope for gain. Mm-hmm. So without the stick, without the unintended consequence or the cost of non-completion, the commitment is meaningless. And so you've got to make those commitments. And when you make a commitment, also, it's not just inward, it's outward, right? Another thing that's really interesting about human behavior is you, and Aaron, I guarantee you're the same way. I know I am. I'll be shocked if you're not. You will do things for other people you won't do for yourself. You will commit to, and you are far less likely to let someone else down than you are to let yourself down. I'm the same way. I mean, do you feel that way?
Oh, well, it's again, like everything that comes out of your mouth, I'm laughing because what I always say is that folks will set boundaries for other people's agendas all day long, right? So like you'll turn off your phone at the dentist office and at the closing table and at the listing appointment. But when it comes to turning off your phone and protecting time for something that matters to you, whether it's your personal life or the professional goals that you have, right? Like whether it's to carve out the time to make the calls to grow the business, to hit your goals, or whether it's to carve out the time to actually sit down and be present with somebody you care about. For some reason, it's the fear of letting everyone else down that prevents people from setting the boundaries around their own agenda, their own needs. And that is a major issue in our industry, that folks are like, well, I can shut off my phone for everybody else's agenda, but I can't do it for my own needs. Right. And therefore, because I'm so paralyzed by the fear of letting others down, I'm letting down myself, I'm letting down those that I care about. And, a lot of times I feel like people, the people that love you the most, it's like they can see it when we're getting carried away, when we're allowing the business to take us for a ride, when we're allowing everybody else's needs to be put before our own. And I've always loved that line. When you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, what are you willing to say yes to? And what are you willing to say no to? Like, what are you unwilling to let in your way? So yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with all of that sentiment there. One of the things I want to ask you about too is that you said in the beginning that you realized early on when you were in your teens that leverage is a good thing, and also that no success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. And so I'm curious if you were as early an adopter of leveraging your real estate business as you were of getting a coach, or did you go through the period of messy in the middle where you allowed the business to take you for a ride and you lost yourself in the process first before you realized enough is enough, like you said earlier?
So year one, I was working 100-hour weeks. That was messy in the middle, right? Like that sucked. Then I took 2 years, went on a mission, came back, hired a coach, and that's also the year that I met my wife. Well, she came to work for me as my assistant. We didn't start dating for 3 years. And then the second we started dating, it was game over. I'm like, I'm marrying this girl. Like everybody on the planet knew that she was the right one for me, and before I did, apparently I'm more say. Fortunately, she was patient. Like I married a saint. I can't even tell you. Anyway, that being said, when we got married, well, actually, when I hired her, that was another big step. That was actually the first. That was the first year. That was when I had a coach. Mike Ferry coined the phrase, and I got to give him credit where credit's due. He said that if you don't have an assistant, you are one, and he's right. And that freaked me out. And so again, got a credit card. Let's figure it out, right? Yeah. So what do I got to lose? I'm 21 years old. All my credit will recover eventually, right? I just terrible attitude. But at the end of the day, I hired her. I was going to have to pay her more than I'd ever made in a year. I had no idea how I was going to pay this woman. And yet I hired her at Mike's behest, and it was the smartest thing I ever did for obvious many reasons. But she came on board, and within 2 months, I was crushing it. Like I was doing way more than I'd ever done before. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. And like, most agents, when they get a little bit of cash in their pocket, I like to spend just like the next guy. And I thought, man, I got a little cash in my pocket. I want to take this out for a ride. I've always wanted to go back to Europe. I spent 2 years living there. Now I'm going to go back for fun, not, to serve the church. I want to go back, see what's going on over there. So I'm going to go spend 2 weeks there. So I get on a plane. I head to Europe. And man, I'm telling you, as a 21-year-old single guy, Europe's a fun place. Yeah, I'm backpacking Europe by myself. It's super cool, right? I get about a week and a half into this trip. I'm following up with her every few days. She's written like 4 deals since I've been gone. I'm like, dude, I'm going to stay 4 more weeks. Screw this. So I literally ended up staying a total of 6 weeks. I'm all over the place. Oh yeah, she sold like 6 houses while I was gone.
Oh my God!
It was fantastic. And that's when I learned. I'm like, dude, this is great. Like I'm having a great day. And nowadays, I hope she doesn't watch this because she's my wife now, right? And so here I am off having a great time. She's doing all the work, but I realized in that moment that, man, like I can have a really great life. And don't get me wrong, I'm all about bringing value to other people as well. But man, this leverage stuff, it works. And so then I came back and I got going on listings. I at that point I said, okay, I'm going to focus my time, effort, energy on listings and on my database. So I did those 2 things, and I started hiring people to help with buyers. So at first, Tara handled all the buyers. Then when she got really, really busy, I hired my first, and this is something nobody had back then. Like we're talking, what is it, like 94, 95, somewhere in there? Nobody had showing agents back then. That wasn't even a thing back then. So I hired my dad, and I said, he's, I don't know, at the time he was in his late, hundreds. I don't know. I'm kidding. He was old. He's old now. He's old then, but he's at that point in his life.
He was probably your age, Michael.
No, heck no. Don't even go. All right. So now you're talking about my gray hair. But here's the thing. He had a choice. Like he had retired from United Airlines. He was a nice guy. Everybody liked my dad. and yet he didn't want to job, right? He didn't want to be sedentary, but he didn't want to, and he could not work, but he wanted to be productive, but and he didn't want to go to work for McDonald's, and yet he wanted to help us in some way. So I'm like, well, why don't we just, I mean, I know you don't want to sell houses, he didn't want to be an agent, but he was willing to get his license. And I said, why don't you just open up the houses? Just go meet people, open up the house, be nice to them, and Tara will take care of the rest. So we did that, and it worked. And I was like, oh my gosh, leverage. We figured out some more leverage, right? Then we started getting really good technology in place. We started getting more people in place. We hired more assistants, and it just started to grow. And before you know it, we're doing 400 or 500 transactions a year. Like, it's nothing. And having a great life in the process. So I don't take credit for coming up with that. I think a lot of it just, how they say necessity is the mother of all invention. I think that was a big part of it. And I think a lot of it was being willing to learn and listen to people that knew better than me. And also learning not to listen to people that didn't know better. So I was not the guy that stood around the water cooler and complained about, buyers are liars and sellers are worse. It was never me. I'm just like, somebody's out there that wants to buy or sell a house. I'm going to go find them. And I did.
Well, the interesting thing about both these things is that first and foremost, we talked about you investing in a coach early on and, how that changed your life. And I know that in my experience, even though it was scrounging up, or it wasn't even scrounging. I just added it to the already mountain of credit card debt, right? But what happened as a result of that was that the business more than doubled overnight from like averaging 30 transactions to doing 80. So the expense, so to speak, of the coach paid for itself in droves. And then the thing about hiring is that I know that I avoided that for far too long. And when I finally brought on my first team member, by getting a lot of stuff off my plate that I didn't know what it was doing to me energetically, which was a big piece of it, is like, what kind of energy are we putting out in the world? And when you're on that hamster wheel and you're hitting your head against the ceiling all the time, you're feeling a little low. And it's not the best kind of energy to be operating your life and business. So I know in my experience, that investment in not only another coach, but also in hiring that team member, and then the business more than doubled again. And so what my coach said to me a long time ago was, whatever it costs you, what did he say? He said, the person you hire is more important than your next transaction.
Oh, yeah.
Your next hire is more important than your next transaction because your next hire is your next 100 transactions.
That's right.
And the thing is that the way I look at it is it's not just about transactions, because there was a time where investing in the coach, the byproduct had less to do for me about the transactions that came as a byproduct and more to do with the life that I was able to regain, my ability to feel alive again and to have the energy to enjoy what we're building. And that to me is the thing that gets lost on folks when you've been on the hunt for the transactions and the deals and you've struggled. Then when you get there, the fear of losing it, like you said, and the fear of letting people down compels you to just suck it up, keep going. And that's really the time where it's time for people to stop worrying about, well, what if I hire someone and it doesn't work out? What if I hire someone and it doesn't grow? Like,
what if it does?
Exactly. And that's the truth of the matter. In fact, we were talking about this, like, let's say you hire somebody that, you pay $3,000 a month. And in doing so, you're able to generate one more closing a month. And let's say your average income per transaction is $5,000. Then it didn't cost you $3,000. It cost you $2,000 not to. That's what my coach, our mutual friend, Carl White, used to
do. Yeah, I love Carl.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's interesting because you're not only helping people build a better life with your coaching, but you've already lived it yourself. And the fact that you were so willing to try on new things so early on is a testament to the journey you've had. And the fact that now you're able to share that story and you've been through the trenches and you're now able to share that story with your clients, with your other coaches to pass on to their clients. I just think it's awesome. And I know a number of agents that have worked with Club Wealth and have had huge success in doing so. But most important is that no success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. And I think that I mean, that's for me, that's the biggest takeaway, and what I hope the listeners take away as well. So I'd love for you to share with us, how can folks get a hold of you and learn about the programs that you have to offer? I know we've talked a lot about scaling, but you do offer coaching for agents at all levels. So let's talk about where they can find you.
I'll give you a couple of ways. We've got a Facebook group. If you go to facebook.com/groups/Club Wealth, you can jump in there. It's free. There's about 34,000 agents in there. Obviously, not all of them are clients of ours. A good number of them are, but not all of them. And you can go to clubwealth.com, it's our website. I would suggest for everybody on this call, one of the things that I'm really passionate about, I really believe you need to have diversified lead sources. We don't, I'm guessing we're running out of time, so I don't want to take too much time on this, but I do want to share. I'm a big believer in referrals. We were doing 190-ish, just over 190 referrals a year. I will tell you this though, if you're 100% reliant on referrals, you need to look at diversifying your lead sources. It's not enough to carry you through the tough times. And you need a constant influx of new people into your system that you then turn into referral clients as well, right? That you then treat really well, you give them a world-class experience, and they then in turn do business with you again and refer people to you. And so I would suggest go to clubwealth.com/leads, LEADS. Go there, and there's a webinar there. It's like an hour long. It's got like 31 different lead sources. Go and you can download the list for free. Doesn't cost anything. But go check out some of those lead sources and don't try and implement them all. Pick one or two that you don't have in your business right now and implement those at a high level. And then when you get those implemented and automated and delegate off everything you can, then look at implementing another one. If you just did that, if all you did was implement one new lead source every quarter, and then you staff up appropriately to handle the volume that you've now generated, both in terms of administrative staff as well as agents on the team, it will cause you to grow. The growth will come as a natural byproduct of that because you'll know the importance of taking care of those clients, and it just all kind of comes together. So anyway, that's what I would do. Go to clubwealth.com/leads, get the list. I think there's 31 lead sources there. So we've got a list of about 109 lead sources we recommend our clients, and we put 31 of the best of them in there. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, Michael. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your story with us.
My pleasure. I appreciate you having me.
All right. And Pursuing Freedom friends, I appreciate you for tuning in. As always, I would love it if you are enjoying the content you're consuming here. Please be sure to find a place to leave a review on iTunes or YouTube or wherever you're consuming this content. It helps us continue to attract awesome guests like Michael and helps this content get found so that we can continue to support you on your journey towards creating a life you don't need a vacation from. I love and appreciate you. Make it an awesome day.